Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roll Down, a TeamFight Tactics podcast. My name is Cutler, and I'm very pleased that you are joining us for the third episode of our already hit series all across the world. I mean, we've had messages from the northern and the southern hemisphere about how just amazing and wonderful Soul is. And that brings me on to the man himself. That is my co-host, Soul. How are you?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Yeah, he's said my name a bunch already, but yeah, I'm Saul, and my real name's David, but you can call me whatever. Good to be here.
We are very pleased to be joined by a wonderful guest today, a man who has recently come off the Set 6 PvE tournament Day 2 experience, and we will get to chat to him a little bit later about that. But welcome to the show, Hinsey. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very stoked to be here. I did not make day 2. I made round 2. So that was still fun.
Don't worry, it's okay. you made day 2 in our hearts. That's what matters.
Yeah. No, I'm fucking keen. I'm so keen. I messaged you like 2 weeks ago, Color, and I was like, get me on the fucking thing. I want to talk about set 6. So I'm hyped. Let's go.
And that is why we've brought you on to talk about set 5.5 today.
That's okay. I can talk shit about 5.5.
We'll definitely be talking about just set 6.
I'm also very happy to talk shit about 5.5.
Yeah, perfect. We have a big show today, guys. It is our set 5.5 retrospective. We are going to go deep into what made it good, what made it bad, our favorite, our least favorite things, perhaps some sort of more game-related philosophies. And from then on, we're going to transition, of course, and spend the second half of our show talking set 6. I want to start off immediately, actually, by coming back to Hinsey and talking a little bit about your history with TFT and when you started playing, how you got into it, and maybe a little bit of your ranked history as well.
Yeah, sure. So I was a league degen forever. I think since like 2011 when I started my undergrad. Yeah. So that's when I started playing league. I was never good at it, but it was fun. And then I played TFT like every set. So like set 1, set 2. But like set 2 was the last set that I got to enjoy without like worrying about rank, which is why I think I'm very nostalgic about it. So set 3, my goal was Masters, and I ended set 3 at Masters 0 LP. And then set 4, my goal was Charlie, and I think I ended GM. I think I hit Charlie for like 24 hours, like 3 times, but I never lasted more than 24 hours. And then set 5 was like my best set, actually. I peaked rank 5. I think it was like 1180 LP or something like that. Made regionals for the first time. That was fucking lit. And then I came like 43rd. And what else? And and 5.5, I ended the season at like, I think I peaked at rank 11. I was like, I want to get to rank 10, and then I just did not give a fuck. Like, I don't know. It was exhausting, man.
Still a pretty good season. Like rank 11, like it's still pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'm fucking stoked with it. I logged back on yesterday, and I was like, I decayed to 0. You know what? I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of happy that I did, because I like the whole last 2 weeks or 10 days. It's been like, I should play my decay games, and then I went on and I was like, oh, I missed them. Cool. I don't have to worry about it. I know what I hit. I know that I'm like not a shit player. I just
you're good. You have faith in yourself. That's all you need, right?
So that's me. I'd like to play competitively. I think I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm like top tier OC, but I think I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Great. Thanks
for stream.
I appreciate it. Talk to me a little bit about your stream. You aren't a everyday kind of streamer, but I do enjoy watching you at sort of all random hours of the day. Sometimes you're up at 5 a.m. playing TFT in queue. Sometimes you're up at 11 p.m. streaming. What's that like? What's that sort of that lifestyle like?
So that's literally because when I'm working, I work at a cinema. So like I work from 5 till 12 a.m. and then I get home at like 12:30. And also, I don't know, like I'm also a writer. Like my background is in theater. I'm a playwright mainly. So I do all my shit at nighttime. I'm nocturnal as fuck. I always sleep during the day. But I kind of like it. I don't know. It's really interesting, kind of the communities that you connect with when you're streaming from like 12 a.m. Like the large majority of my viewership, I say that like I have huge viewership, but like the large majority of people that are in my stream are predominantly like UK people. I think because I have a lot of crossover with Willivic's stream. I don't even know if that's how you say his name.
Just call him Will.
And it's only really once I like hit like top 20, I think, and like when I was hovering around like top 10 for a while in set 5 that I started getting a lot more OCE viewers. But yeah, it's been I go through phases where I'm like I'll stream every day for like a month and then I'll take like 3 weeks off. But I enjoy it. It's because I don't look at streaming like I'm not fussed about growing too much, so it's genuinely like fun.
So you say it's more like a hobby, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have growth and it's nice to like get subs here and there, but it's not like I have so much other shit that I also love. So it's just it's a thing that I enjoy. Yeah. And then I also stream D&D, like, you know what I mean? I also stream other stuff. Like I write D&D content, et cetera. But it is predominantly TFT. Yeah.
You guys can look out for our next podcast, the Roll 20 Down, where Hinsey puts us through a D&D campaign.
That'd be sweet.
Coming soon.
Yeah, shit. I'm gonna do it. I'm so fucking keen. I've got a couple of things actually. I want to like do like I want to do a homebrew series where I like convert like traits or origins into classes.
Oh, that sounds fun.
But I also want to do like a one-shot series with a bunch of like OCE TFT streamers. I think
I'd love to play a one-shot TFT.
I don't know why the Roll 20 Down sounds like a really great idea, but we're gonna message Hinsey after this episode.
Yeah. No, I played a bunch of 5th edition myself. It's good fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is a group of 3 D&D nerds here, which is not the main topic of our episode. Let's get back on topic. Let's talk set 5. Let's talk set 5.5. We could go on. Easy startup question, set 5.5. Sol, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, good set. I didn't like 5. I didn't like set 5, so 5.5 was surprisingly a very good set.
Yeah. Hins, how are you?
I was happy for the improvements. I got really burnt out. It was just boring. Like it was absolutely better than set 5. But like to me I felt like by the halfway through the set, it was like, I know how to play every comp. If I hit it, I hit it. And like the skill set comes down to like the minutiae of like how fast can I track? And then the trackers came out and like, you know, because that was for me, that was a point of difference, I think. Like I was such a big I tracked manually for quite a while. And I'm glad that you don't have to do that anymore. I don't think that people should have to do it manually. But yeah, I don't know. I found the set boring.
Yeah. I think for me on a personal level, I felt like there were a good few patches of this set where something was really good. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback. Something was really good, but nobody played it. And everyone was still kind of a patch behind, maybe half a patch behind, pretty much the whole set. So a lot of what was going on was really just sort of everyone playing catch up to what the most broken comp of the patch was. I mean, I hit 4-digit LP pretty much solely playing Yasuo for about 4 days, 5 days maybe. You know, just on a week that nobody was playing Yasuo. So that was one of those things where I would classify it as it was boring. That's what made it boring for me.
Fair.
So I think it's a combination of that and like you know, it was the smallest mid set we've had in a while, I think.
Yeah.
Like Sentinels was the only new vertical trait. A lot of the carries stayed the same.
I think the biggest thing is that all the carries stayed the same. It wasn't like I mean, what was interesting was Mort brought this up in that like actually a similar amount of champions were rotated in and out in set 5.5 compared to 4.5.
Interesting. Okay.
It just feels. No. So the thing is, right? It just feels like 5.5 was like extremely unimpactful because 4.5 mostly swapped out the 4 cost carries and obviously added the 5 costs. Whereas 5.5 just swapped out a bunch of 1s, 2s, and 3s, and didn't really change the 4s.
Like, I think really the only carries that we had to learn how to play differently, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't played 5.5 in forever, are Jax and Draven. Karma was still the same.
Yes.
Vel'Koz was still the same.
Yes.
We just went back to playing A-Bomb instead of
and Lucian is just AD Vel'Koz, so yeah.
Yeah, like it was. I mean, there were, we got near the end, people were like midding Lucian, and that was cool.
Yeah.
But I liked Sentinels. I actually thought Sentinels was like the most interesting trait they had.
I liked Sentinel before they reworked it. I liked Sentinel. I really liked the
mathematically correct Sentinel.
That stuff was so like 5-head, and praise Socks for figuring it out. That was pretty cool.
Absolutely, but like I think especially coming off the back of set 5, where they were like, we want the game to be more accessible. We want players to we don't want players to have to dive through math.
No, I understand.
I can absolutely see why.
Oh no! The rework was like totally reasonable. Like it's totally warranted. But it's like in that period when it existed, that was really cool.
It was cool. Yeah.
I think what was great about Sentinel was when you had 6 Sentinel, like stage 4 onwards. I feel like that was a really good position of like strength and enjoyment of the comp. I think early game Sentinel, frustrating.
Yeah.
Very, very frustrating. The Sentinel Skirm opener. Yeah, playing against was very frustrating.
I think part of it is the fact that like set 5 is the most, I guess, grindy, like kind of defensive set we've ever seen in terms of like all the traits are just like hard stat bonuses, or they like give you units more HP when they're low. Sentinel was Hinsey dropped.
Oh, we lost Hinsey.
Experiencing technical difficulties.
It's okay. He'll be back.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's back.
Hello. I don't know what that was.
Welcome back. That's okay.
Melbourne internet diff.
It's a Melbourne
diff.
Oh,
sorry. That's a lot of noise. I'm going to close my window.
Yeah, that's all good. So that's okay. That's a.
I live on a tram line.
Yeah. Yes. I see. All right. Anyway, pick up where we left off.
Oh, sticks.
So yeah, lots of sticks, and Sentinel is just more stats. If you really think about it, it's just a bunch of shields.
Yes, but they come in a flashy way.
No, I know. I'm just saying though, just.
I agree.
Fights last even longer than before, Yeah.
Every
fight goes to overtime.
And I think set 6, at least like from their feedback, this must be something that they agree with. I think like infinite scaling, or the notion of infinite scaling, is something that players really enjoy. Like Vega and Cho'Gath and Is there another champion? Oh, Tom Kench. And so the idea of like Sentinels, it wasn't like as built into the core of it, but like the idea that you could like get your carry to 5, I don't know, with a bouncing shield everywhere, just go in. The thematic of it was much cooler than say like you heal a bit and then you do extra damage.
Oh, I mean, I'll absolutely agree. Like as a defensive trait, Sentinel like succeeded. It's just that like, did the set need another defensive trait?
Oh, absolutely not.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been great if set 5 started off with Sentinel. Then that would have, But does that make sense? Like just take out one of the random defensive traits in set 5, put Sentinel in there.
But the thing is that they were like all defensive and offensive, weren't they? Like how many truly defensive traits were there? Cavalier.
Have for damage reduction, redeemed for armor and MR. Don't bring up for healing when you're low. Might bring up for shielding when you're low.
Yes, but they're not like purely defense. You know what I mean?
I get you.
Like in terms of pure defense, it was Cavalier, Ironclad, Mystics, Vanguard.
Yeah, if we're talking about hard stats, yeah, sure.
Why did I say Vanguards?
So I think we're getting a little bit of feedback off you. I'm not sure if
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, there's a little bit of feedback. I was wondering where I was coming from.
My bad.
That's okay, it's okay.
We were testing it earlier. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, better.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sweet. Yeah, I think that any
trait... Okay, wait. I'm going to connect again. Hold on. Now I can't hear. Oh my god, golly gosh. Sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Oh, good.
Oh, there it is.
All right, sweet.
Flip. Okay. And video. Ah, I'm a mess. All right, we're back.
Wait.
We're back. We did
Cool.
it. Perfect. All right, looks good. I will say that getting back to the topic, I feel any trait that had an offensive bonus often came with a defensive bonus as well. So there was never a drawback to running offensive compositions. In the sense that they always offered a defensive variable. And that's basically the redeemed, legionnaire, sentinel.
And if they didn't offer a defensive, variable, so if they were like skirmishers or if they were forgotten, which I think were the two verticals that didn't, they very easily teched it in, right? Like it was super easy to tech in ironclads to skirms, less so mystics, but like super easy to tech in ironclads. And with forgotten, less so in 5.5, more in 5, very easy to tech in mystics and knights and cavaliers and ironclads. Yeah. And then to make up for the defensive traits, Draven just got like every single thing that an AD carry wants, and he was still shit. 90% of the set.
I think it was. I think they. Yeah, that's, as I said, 90% of the set. He was good once they gave him the inbuilt Last Whisper, but yeah, that took a while. That took a long time to get to that state.
Is there like a single target? We'll talk about it in set 6.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's like a Draven, if there is a Draven equivalent in terms of like
a Draven in set 6 or just in general.
Just like a Draven equivalent in terms of like single target front to back.
It's Jhin. The answer is Jhin.
Fiora.
Set 3 Jhin. I mean, sorry, we're talking about. Sorry, hold on. Were we talking about over the course of TFT, or we're just talking about set 6?
I'm talking about set 6.
Oh, set 6. It's probably it's Urgot then, right? Urgot just front to backs with his machine gun.
Yes, true.
It's not like Lucian where he targets the furthest units to back. Urgot targets the closest unit. But Urgot's a little bit different compared to Draven in how he front to backs. But yeah, if we're talking set 6, sorry, I thought you were just saying is like a front to back carry in like the history.
No.
I believe that would be Jhin. Like who nukes a single unit at a time. Yeah, I believe that would be Jhin. Yeah. But Jhin in set 6 is a lot different. Yeah, Jhin in set 6 is a lot different.
Yeah, very interesting. I want to know what your guys' favorite comps to play in set 5.5. Where I start with Hins this time.
Bitch. Cled. I made the fucking emote.
Boo.
I did the thing. Cled brought me so much fucking joy.
Who let this guy on the podcast?
Cledge
was like, I honestly think if I hadn't discovered Cledge, I would have like dropped out halfway through the set. I don't know. No other comp brought me that much joy. I think because like, and it's not like I'm looking back at it and being like, I discovered Cled, but I absolutely had a Cled game in set 5 where I just had a 3-star Cled. And I was just like shitting on all these Vel'Kozes by putting him on the opposite corner and then just watching him like zip to the back and zip all along the backline units while Vel'Koz. I don't know. It was just like I'll say I think he's my favorite unit they've ever printed in TFT, like across all sets.
Yeah.
Maybe bested by Timo, but yes, Cled. That's my favorite for sure.
So,
it's really close. But I think... See, I was going to say Aphelios. I actually think it's Yasuo. I quite enjoyed Yasuo this set.
Don't steal my fucking pick, bro.
Okay. We'll go with Aphelios then. We'll talk about Aphelios then. Aphelios is really fun. Because I really liked that they shifted his identity away from just like being like an 80... like a really boring sort of auto-attack 80 carry to an actual like 80 caster. So the fight's like always really, really high energy and lots of fun. Just jumps up, ults, one-shots like 5 dudes. Yeah.
I think that might be the best like champ rework they've ever done.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
And all they did was give him 150 mana.
Yep.
But it's like interesting how like you're purely changing how the champ works and he becomes more fun.
Yeah.
Like it's the simplest change in the world. the whole. I don't know. Yeah, I would be so interested to see like the play rate change as well. From that.
I mean, Set 5 Furious was like it was like played a lot, but like it just was not that fun of a carry because all he did was auto attack. Like he just autoed a bunch. You didn't even want him to cast because his cast did so little damage, and he wasn't autoing when it was like casting.
Yeah, because it's like a big.
Yeah. I just wanted. Oh, exactly. You get it. So
yeah. That's why you got red.
I'll save Yasuo for Cutler, but I did enjoy Yasuo a lot. That comp was fun.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Thank you. I didn't have fun playing any other comp except Yasuo. I played like so much A-Bomb in Set 5 and like 5.5 that it was just because I'm like I played a lot of cultists, and I mean I literally played 85 games of mech in a row in Set 3 and 3.5. So I mean that's like those are my kind of comps, and I really didn't like A-Bomb from a flavor perspective. Definitely as much as like Set 5 A-Bomb, but they replaced Rise with like probably a more broken unit, which is
it was pretty broken.
And that was my biggest problem with A-Bomb was just how good, like how necessary Fiddle was in basically shaping an entire meta around one comp. And like a front line, basically. Fiddle was played in everything. Pretty much everything. I mean,
Fiddle was like the glue. Fiddle was the glue that held like so many comps together, for sure.
And I didn't really like that, but I really did like Yasuo. I liked that there were so many different builds. You could like you could put blue buff on it. You could make it an auto attacking based character. You could put AP crit on it. There was a lot of times when you'd have to choose between Rabadons or JG or Rabadons and Hodge, and a lot of people had like played GA, and some of them and it was very versatile and really interesting. The only thing I would say is that I really would have liked if they'd kept Darius, but I know from a thematic standpoint they didn't, and they didn't want to. I think it was very
fuck thematics. That was so stupid. They should have just kept Darius.
I mean, it's confirmed. It's confirmed. Mortdog hates Darius, by the way. Like Mortdog thinks Darius is like the most like underwhelming, worthless 5 cost they've ever made. So.
But it is worse one.
It's literally no secret. It's literally no secret. Mortdog hates Darius. Like he's literally said on his stream, "Oh yeah, I hate Darius. That unit sucks."
I love Darius. I loved playing Darius. I played a lot of Nightbringers in 5 and 5.5. So I feel like I really would have liked it to stay. I think it would have made the meta more interesting.
I feel like there were ways that like he could have been reworked, for sure. And it kind of sucks that it kind of just gave up on him and just shelved him. Unlucky.
I wonder how much of it was like a balanced decision, and how much of it was like actually a narrative decision. You know, like if they were dead set, I'm like, if someone said at the start of the set, they're like, cool, Set 5, we're gonna have Garen and Darius, and then at the end of the set, we're gonna pick one and get rid of them.
Well,
and they just like committed to that.
Well, you know what's interesting is that the interesting thing is that like the storyline, the whole storyline thing, right? Is I'm pretty sure it's last minute because their initial intention was to do shadow items with radiant items. So I don't know if you know about that one, but their initial intention was to do both. So when shadow items failed, they effectively had to they decided to just completely scrap them and bring radiant items as planned. But radiant items was always planned. It was just shadow items was initially intended to go along with radiant items.
Jesus.
Yeah. Right? Can you imagine? Can you freaking imagine? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm pretty sure that
so many players.
It would be bad. I think it would be really bad. Like, it'd be unbelievably confusing. But thank God that didn't happen, right? Jesus.
Yeah.
That's like going back to Set 5 and looking at the list of all the items that didn't make it. Like, GA revived you 4 times, but with 1 health every time. Like, Shadow GA. Like, that was their original intention for Shadow GA.
Right.
And there were a bunch of other ones that were ridiculous. It was like Ionic Spark zapped everybody like 4 times. Stuff like that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. They come up with some good shit over there in the balance and design team of TFT. Thank God some of it doesn't make it to live, and that's what the PB is for. I want to move on and ask a little bit about your guys' least favorite. I'm going to say least favorite units in set 5.5.
Okay. I have a least favorite unit, and I have a unit that I think was bad for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
My least favorite unit was probably Yasuo, because true damage into Kled made me want to cry. And there was that period of time, there was like 4 or 5 weeks in the middle of set 5.5 where like Vayne was meta, then Yasuo was meta, and then Kayle was meta. And I was trying to play Kled. It was so fucking sad, dude. Anyway, bad for the game. I think Akshan was like really stupid to ship.
Interesting.
I think like the design of that champion basically meant that Karma was never gonna really be. And I know that people found ways to make Karma work, but I think that like Ashkan. I never say the name. Akshan. I think that like the design of Akshan really shut out a lot of comps in combination with like units like Thresh, where like you have so many carries with like 4 range and so many supporting units with 3 range. The fact that when you're playing Dawnbringers, you don't have a corner bait unit unless you run Syndra over Ivan, to me actually seems like bad trait design.
Yeah. I think if we want to talk a little bit about Akshan, I think it's I don't mind that they went for it, because they very much wanted to make a carry that was like a 5-cost that was like somewhat replicating set 1 Kai'Sa, and that like it's like a 5-cost hyper carry that kind of goes around the board everywhere. But I think we learned. I think it's not even just Akshan. There are other examples of this too. But I think we've learned that like from this set that like carries that just like are like hyper carries that deal like a bunch of damage that like dive your backline and immediately delete your own backline is extremely like unfun and very frustrating to play against. Akshan is like an example. Tristana before they reworked her is like another big offender in my opinion. But yeah.
I think the problem with Akshan like and carries like that is that you are forced, and in some ways this should be good. Like this should be a form of skill expression.
I mean, in Akshan's case, it should be good, right?
Yeah, it should be good. But when you're playing against them, you're forced to change your comp entirely to maybe deal with this one unit, which just feels bad. I think set 6 has done some stuff to resolve that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like
I mean we'll say the set 6 talk, right? But I think Kai'Sa in set 6 is like a much healthier like that style of design where like it's jumping everywhere, firing all the shots. Yeah.
Actually, it looked fucking cool for sure.
Yeah, it really ended up being more like Samira than like Kai'Sa.
Yes, it did end up being a little bit like a Samira. Yeah, especially when you had it properly itemized. It felt like a Samira.
Yeah. Sol, how about you? What do you think on this?
Okay, how do I say this? Unit I hated the most, and unit I think was actively like absolutely terrible for the game. It's Thresh. I hope that unit dies in the freaking fire. They never bring anything similar back ever. Like I'm saying this right now. This Thresh unit, man. Oh my god. It's too tilting. Okay, no. But anyway, but seriously though, like a little bit back to reality. Yeah, I think Thresh was really, really unhealthy. It's not that hook units are necessarily like bad for the game. I think hook units like give a lot of room for skill expression, and are necessary to a point to sort of provide you counterplay to like comps with a bunch of backline. The issue with Thresh is that because his hook is delayed and it comes out way like later, it's extremely random and difficult to play against. B, your corner bait doesn't even effectively corner bait sometimes. So for some random reason, your corner bait unit just walks up. And then Thresh hooks your unit anyway. And then finally, why does Thresh have to drag your unit all the way to like the center of the board? Like, does anyone know? So yes, for all those factors, yes, I hate Thresh.
And then also he keeps pulling if he dies.
Yes, and before they nerfed the mana, that as well. And before the mana, he hooked like twice a fight. He hooked like twice a fight before the nerf.
Dude, the fact that like it's the inconsistency of it for me.
Oh yeah, right, exactly.
It's like when Ashe dies, her ult's still going, the animation just like disappears.
Yeah.
And when Thresh dies, like he keeps pulling.
He keeps hooking. Yeah, exactly. It's easily by far the most like the worst designed like hook unit they've ever made. In the middle, they've made a decent amount of hook units, but easily the worst designed hook unit in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening to my tech talk.
Both good options. Both really good options. Both absolute blights on the set as a whole for me. I am going to throw out just a couple that kind of aren't maybe talked about as much.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my absolute least favorite unit was Kale. I think it was a ridiculous decision to make a unit
Kale was
like
my
that.
second.
I think that the way that it existed.
I think making the unit was fine, and I can understand the fantasy of it, but yeah, it just didn't play out the way they wanted it to. And not taking.
How did they want it to play out? How was Kale ever going to play out?
Well, yeah. Well, you know, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a feast and famine design, right? It's either broken or it's unplayable. So yeah.
And I think what they wanted
the exact same problem. Yeah, you go, Colin.
I was just what they wanted to do was make it a good Legionnaire, right? What they wanted to do was make it like that end game Legionnaire fantasy, where like you're auto attacking so fast that you basically like auto ramp up. I think if they wanted to make it a unit that was like an infinite stall unit, why the fuck did they give it innate attack speed? Like innate inbuilt attack speed within a trait. You know what I mean? I think it's like ridiculous, and I think it's totally counterproductive to how
I think
it should have been played, especially because like there was already so much stall.
I think it probably needed a mana bar instead of being like actual tick like time based, if that makes sense. Then you would actually be incentivized to like give it as much attack speed as possible, so it ascends faster. But the fact that it ascends like at the same speed, regardless of what items you put on it, basically meant that like it naturally led to store comps, right?
Yeah. And that
it needs
ridiculous.
I think the problem with Kale was that it was also like it didn't feel like you were playing against someone that transitioned into a very cool like Piba late game, right?
And Gora in chat says any Vel'Koz haters.
Yes.
I mean, I'll be the first to say I don't really
Vel'Koz was my third, but
really?
like
yeah. I mean, okay, I don't like Vel'Koz, but I feel like ASOL from 4.5 was that design but worse. So I'm okay about Vel'Koz. In my opinion.
I mean, just because there was a worse unit doesn't mean that Vel'Koz was good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But like, it's just not for me. It's not that high of like on grievances because I feel like ASOL was like, having been the previous set was a bigger offender. But yeah.
I think Vel'Koz.
Sorry, you go.
Oh,
you go. You're our guest.
I think the problem with Vel'Koz was how much he defined like positioning. Like,
yes.
Irrespective of the unit itself being very powerful, he really warped because, like, I feel like if anything, if you had a Vel'Koz in your matchup, you wanted to dodge the Vel'Koz. You can position kind of around everything else, but the fact that every single time a Vel'Koz is in your matchup, you do not want to be the opposite side, really kind of degraded, I don't know, a lot of gameplay experience.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think so. I think that's actually really interesting that you brought that up, actually, because I did want to bring this up at some point. So I think I guess I don't know if this is unique to set. No, it's definitely not unique to 5.5. It's just set 5 in general, because set 5 in general has a lot of units that are very polarizing in terms of like how they're positioned. Like Vel'Koz is a big offender for sure, but then you think to other units like Frozen Heart Diana, like Viego. Units that basically like are very, very binary in terms of how they're positioned. If they're like on the right side, they will absolutely shred whatever they're facing. So on the wrong side, they don't really do anything. And I think that. Sorry, you want to go?
All I was going to say is yes, they're binary, but also the way that they work is that the counter for Vel'Koz fucks you up against like Sins sometimes, or it just feels like. You're doomed if you do, doomed if you don't.
Yeah, it's a situation where like it feels so impossible to play, and that like there are so many like different things to position for in your rotation, and like you just have to pick one and pray you win like the 50-50 flip. You know, it feels pretty bad.
Yeah. I will say that when it comes to worst design unit, I want to cheat and say that all the Revenants were terribly designed, and I hate them. and I never want to see anything like Revenants ever again. But I will say that Fiddle was the worst offender of all of them.
I like Volibear. I like
the concept of Volibear. The execution was really bad.
Oh, okay. I think Volley was good after they got rid of the de-shielding. Once they got rid of the de-shielding, I liked Volley better. But yeah.
I liked when it got rid of the shields, but there was too many shields. So, I mean,
Volley getting rid of shields was so stupid.
Agreed.
It was so fucking stupid.
The
fact that one unit that like everyone is playing completely invalidates.
I mean, Volley completely held down Yasuo as a comp. Like the moment they rewrote the shields, Yasuo like play rates went up, like win rates went up so much, and everyone was like, "Wait, did Yasuo get buffed?" And it's like, no, it was just Volley. They just finally nerfed Volley. Yeah.
I mean, I also hated Volibear because I played Kled.
That's understandable as well. That is also understandable.
Understandable, really. Let's talk about the core mechanic now. I'm going to include the Armories, not just the Radiant Armory in that, and I want to ask you guys what your overall thoughts were for the Armories.
Armories were lit.
Armories were pretty good. I think that in 5.5, we got to a point where there were too many, I guess, like choose like an item options that like you basically were not naturaling any items, if that makes sense, which I don't think is ideal. But does that make sense? Because like if you think about how a 5.5 game plays, is you get your 3 components, you have your 2/2 armory, grab an item or Caro, and then on your Krug round you maybe get like 1 component, 2 components maybe, and then you don't see a component, like you don't randomly hit a component until basically Raptors. At which point Wolves. Wolves gives you like a few more components, and Raptors gives you basically nothing, right? So I think that like what that led to was that you would have game states where by the time you got to the 4/2 armory, there's no reason to not just like slam everything and like all your items are locked in at that point. So there's basically like 0 decision making to be made after that. Whereas like I feel like in previous sets, there's like there's an interesting tug and pull when you get to 4/1, like as to whether you should greed for better item quality from Carousel and Wrapped Around. But yeah, but other than that, I felt Armories were pretty good overall.
You very often didn't miss what you wanted.
You
pretty much always got to build like the items that you knew you wanted for your comp, no matter what you were going. Even if you had to pivot at the end of the game, you still had enough. You still had enough items or items that thereabouts to play what you wanted to play.
I felt like it led to less like bad experiences where like you wouldn't really get like quote unquote more dogged by items. But I also at the same time feel like, especially from playing Set 6 PvE, that like part of the skill expression in this game is also making the best of like a low roll situation or finding like alternate outs. Like if like the game plan doesn't go like as you wanted it to, if that makes sense. Like for example, like in like this wouldn't really happen in set 5.5 or set 5 where everything's like where you get all your items of armories, right? But like in like set 4, set 6, set 3, you know, you'd have like 2 carry items slammed and then you would natural like a completely like off comp item. Now you would have to now you have to think like, okay, how do I fit this item into like my comp? Whereas you don't really have that in set 5. You kind of just like make bits for everything because of the armories.
I mean, it's a combination of armories and Radiant Blessing, which I know we're not talking about right now, but I do think the two go hand in hand.
We can definitely bring that up. That's a good segue into talking about Radiant Blessing.
Because you have so much more control over the components that you're getting, combined with the fact that if you're lose streaking early, you are also getting carousel priority. You essentially have control over 6, like more control over about 6 different components, right? Between the 3 carousels and the 3 armies.
Yeah.
And then on top, so when you spike, if you're forcing a comp, if you like decide very early on, you're like, this is the comp that I'm playing, your itemization is pretty dang good. And then all you need to do is hit the units, right?
Yeah, plus you also have the Radiant Armory, right? Like you also have a Radiant shop to just give you a full completed item for the comp you're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. You also have the Radiant shop, and then you get the fucking blessing, you go below 40. Like it's the fact that I feel like toward the end of the set, when people started realizing like how easy it was to force, in 5.5, I actually think it's one of the easiest sets to force comps.
It absolutely is, in my opinion. Like with the way how with the way how your armories interact with best in stock items, with how Radiant Blessing, like the stimmy, like giving you a bunch of extra resources to help you hit. It is easily like it is, for lack of a better way to put it, it is the set for one tricks. I would say set 5, like set 5.5, sorry, specifically, was like the set for one tricks. Like if you found a comp that you were like very confident in playing, you could just 2020 that comp very, very consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking wild going into set 6 with that, from that.
Yeah, it's very different. It is very, very, very different. Let's talk about the Radiant Armory as well now. I want to discuss like why it felt so good. Like item power level in this game often fluctuates between excessively overpowered and necessary, like set 3, and half unnecessary, like set 4 and set 4. Well, 4.5 was a bit different, but 4 had a slightly less high reliance on items. And then, of course, we get into set 5, where the core mechanic of the set is actually based around items. With bonuses and drawbacks, and those really sort of allow you to push through a lot of the defensive or offensive comps in the game. I'd love to see them back in the future. What do you guys think?
I'd prefer to see Chosen back. If I had to see a set mechanic back, I'd prefer Chosen, but I would not be mad about Radiant items.
Radiant Armories? Yeah, maybe not in the way it was, maybe not in the specific way it was implemented, but I love the concept of just empowered items in general. Like, all items were really fun from set 4.5.
What would you change?
So for me, I think the issue, okay, if we want to just specifically talk about Radiant Armories, I feel personally for me, part of the issue is that Radiant Armories give you way too much direction in terms of what you're playing, because of how like extremely powerful the items are. Also, like in theory, right? I mean, I'm not saying this to like trash on Radiant Armories. I actually thought the set mechanic was quite good, and I enjoyed playing it. But I did feel that it led to whereas like ideally in an ideal world, right, it would reward flexibility. Like it would encourage you to pivot, blah 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 blah. In reality, what ended up happening a lot of the times is like, you're just banking. You're forcing around a specific comp. You're playing towards a specific comp, and you're just banking on the Radiant Armory giving you a relevant sort of carry item, if that makes sense. So a lot of like the sort of decisions. I mean, yeah, especially towards the like later half when it's really like when I had a lot of games down my belt. A lot of the decisions with like Radiant Armories were like not very interesting. It's like, oh, I'm missing frontline. Okay, Bramble Vest. Oh, I need a damage item for my Lucian. Infinity Edge. Like, if you get what I mean, guys. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the decision making was very simplified. Yeah, would be the way.
I think I could count like on two hands the number of times that I looked at a Radiant shop and was like, I'm pivoting.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I mean? Because like worst case, I take a Zephyr. In fact, I actually think Zephyr or Shroud might have been my highest win rate, my highest top items.
I think Radiant Shroud was really, really good. Yeah.
Every Radiant defensive item was good because obviously, like you were saying, Sol, if you were just building whatever you wanted to build, knowing you were going to play it anyway, and you got 5 defensive items, great. Your tank's got like a better defensive item on it. It'll live for longer.
Yeah.
Let the actual comp you want to play. I feel like that potentially, in my mind, that makes it seem like there wasn't enough adversity that you faced, and that sort of comes back to the items as well, like between 1-4 and 3-5, because you were always just going to play what you pretty much already had. There wasn't ever a significant, like, I know, at least for me, someone that played, in lots of challenger lobbies, pretty much all set. I never like full pivoted my board more than like 10 times.
No. I think if we if I was to propose like a really simple sort of change, it would be to change the options from 5 to 3, honestly. Like if you offer 3 Radiant items instead of 5, it's a lot harder to force around a specific like item, like a specific category of item. Also, like it also sort of forces you to sometimes take suboptimal Radiant items and have to pivot your board accordingly. Because you're not going to take a Radiant item like that. Like, let's say hypothetically you get Mortog, you get 3 Radiant items that do not like automatically fit in your comp, right? But like you have to play around your Radiant item, otherwise you're down a Radiant item. So it forces you to reevaluate your current situation and actually play towards the radiant item. So it's one of those like really unintuitive sort of like weird cases where taking away options actually, gives the player more options. Like it has to it makes the player have to think more, if that makes sense.
Yes, but I just don't people wouldn't enjoy it.
No.
Everyone would be like, this is just not fun.
But the thing is that I think with augments as an example, right? I think we should say the set 6 talk. But I think with augments, for example, I think like 3 options is like perfectly reasonable. So
but you get 9, really.
You do get 9 over the course of the game.
If you only, yeah.
No, I think that's fair.
I get what you mean. I feel like if the first iteration of radiant items had been you only get 3, we never would have. I wouldn't be saying that. It's just we've experienced 5 radiant items now. So if they were to hypothetically bring it back, people would just be like, "Why?"
Yeah, and I know that it was random, but it never really felt truly random. You know what I mean?
Radiant items.
Radiant items. Like if they had started with it, let's say for example, they were like, there's 3 different kinds of radiant armories. One is 5 or 4. There's 4, whatever, 7 different ones or whatever. But you knew what they were. I feel like at the very least you kind of would have felt like there was a little bit more personal control you could have. Because I mean, and Gore in the chat's right. If you got what you wanted,
you just win, right?
There you go. You just win.
You
get that radiant Deathblade in your AD comp, and you haven't already built Deathblade. Like you've been saving a sword for IE. I don't know. I think that there was a lot of great stuff about it. There was a lot of great stuff and a lot of really enjoyable stuff. But I'm sure there's a way that people who are better game designers than us would understand to make it better.
I think a lot of it also came down to the set itself, and I could be very wrong here, but I think that just by virtue of how the set was built and the traits in it. If you had slammed AP items and you got an AD item, there were very few comms that you could actually make that work in. I don't think you saw a lot of AD AP carries, right?
No,
multi-carries.
Lucian was the only hybrid carry, but even then, he wasn't really an AP user so much as he just scared off crit. So it was really just Jewel Gauntlet that worked on him. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you were going AP, it was you didn't want to get Jewel Gauntlet and Deathblade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You needed the IE as well. Yeah, to amplify the crit. Yeah.
So I think I think again we'll get to it eventually, but radiant items in set 6, maybe it would have felt less bad building AP items and then getting Bloodthirster because you could do fucking Fiora Yone or some shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm just a super not flexible.
No, I think that's a really good point. And just reiterate what you just said, right? I think it's very fair to say that sort of how radiant items feel in terms of game flow is very, very context dependent on the champions, right? In the specific set. And I think that speaks volumes of just how to cut the game designers a bit of slack, I think it speaks volumes of how hard a game like TFT is to balance and design around. Because all the systems are so sort of interwoven, interconnected with each other, right? Yeah.
But I just, the number of times I play fucking Vel'Koz and I get fucking Deathblade BT, fucking last.
Yeah, it was not great. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it goes on Varys, Callista.
Yeah. Look, I think that was a fantastic sort of set 5.5 discussion and retrospective. I mean, I know for me personally, it's the highest that I've been during a set. And I think that if you're attempting to move into a semi-competitive space, if a set is out there that you're really good at, you're probably going to like it a little bit more than some of the other ones. And maybe when we look back on it, we'll love it even more because of that.
Yeah. I think Set 5 was solid. Set 5.5 was solid. It doesn't rank, for me, it doesn't rank particularly highly, but, I don't think it was terrible. I thought Set 5 itself was terrible, but yeah.
I think that's so interesting about looking back at sets and being it wasn't terrible. Because of the nature of the game and the nature, the fact that we have sets and sets and sets. I don't know many other games that work like that. But where you look back and you're can I just play that one again?
It's so weird because when I look back at like set 4, like I think it's like actually like really cool and I miss it. But then I like think about actually playing like when I actually played it, and I remember I used to mold so much about like Chosen. So,
yeah, I mean, you'll mold about it. You'll mold about anything and everything. I have a lot of nostalgia for fucking set 2.
Fair.
Yeah, I like set 2 as well, and I played it for 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was my last set of innocence where I didn't fucking care about shit. Anyway.
Cool.
Guys,
Set 6.
we're going to split up and talk about something that maybe we'll have Hinsey back on in 6 months' time, and we'll discuss the retrospective of set 6. But
yeah,
I want to discuss set 6. Hinsey, how has PBE been for you overall?
Traumatic. It's made me realize that I'm not actually that good at TFT. No. Like I'm always bad at the start of patches, let alone sets. But like it's really interesting, I think, because I have this ideology in my head that like I'm a flexible player. Like I like to think that I play fairly flexible. And I'm not like that's not me going like that's why I didn't like do super well in set 5.5 because set 5 was my best set ever. But it's really interesting kind of like actually playing and being like, I'm really fucking struggling. Like I cannot move. My brain can't move quickly enough because my APM is shit. Like my APM is not good. So like I love it. I love the idea of it. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, when I understand this, I'm going to fucking enjoy it. But it's like, it's fucking hard, man. It's
a tough set. It is for sure.
It also feels incredibly swingy. Like I think augments.
Yeah.
I think it might be. I'm saying this a lot tonight, but every time I'm saying it, I do genuinely believe it. I think it might be not as competitive as I originally thought when I heard about this.
Okay, right. I mean, if we were just really, really quickly touch on like swinginess, in my personal opinion, I think augments, at least the prismatic augments, have the potential like to create sort of like even bigger swings than Chosen did. Especially
absolutely.
Like, well, okay, I say this when like if we remember back to specific patches before Chosen was correctly reworked, right? Chosen was incredibly swingy. Like if you remember back to like the 4-1 sort of lottery days in Chosen when it literally like you could just hit a Chosen 4 cost out of your shop out of nowhere and boom, you have direction. Boom, you stabilize your board. Yeah. So I mean I don't think it's that outlandish of a comment to make, but yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, I mean I understand where you're coming. I understand where you're coming from. I think that there's so many of them, man. I don't know. Fucking 40% of them.
Is it bad if I'm getting to the point where like I can recognize every augment? Like
yes, that's so bad because every game I see two I've never seen before.
I've played that much.
I'm like in a fucking sweat PBE in-house challenger lobby and I'm like, what the fuck does that one do? What do you mean my units are fucking disarm for 2.5 seconds? I've never seen this, but I saw that for the first time today. The challenger disarm one.
On guard, yes.
Yeah,
on guard.
You even know the name. That's my struggle. Is that I'm a slow mechanic understander. I just think that it's like it's got a lot of potential to be a struggle, man. Like it's got a lot of potential.
It's not even like a lot of potential. It just is a big struggle. Like let's be upfront here. The set mechanic. So I mean, I think in terms of complexity, it's easily. It might be the most complex mechanic that they've done. I guess shadow items are pretty complex, but I feel like that a lot of the complexity is sort of fake complexity. Augments, I feel like a lot of it is actually true complexity. However, I think that what has been fairly smart about is that it's only 3 options, and it's not all the options are front loaded to you at once. It's 3 options at 3 stages of the game, so it feels a little bit less overwhelming. In terms of for example, like even though there's hundreds of augments, like 140 or something augments, you only have to read what 3 of them do at any time, and I don't. At least so far, I mean, we'll have to see when we play, like when there's more data. it doesn't feel like there are too many augments. There's not too much cross-augment synergy. There's obviously some, but there's not too much to the point where if you don't know a specific augment's interaction with another one, then you're like missing out. If that makes sense. Like most of the information is like front-loaded to you. Like it does what it says it does.
Yeah, and it's good that there's like a little thing that exists that just stays there and reminds you on your board.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, what have I got?
It will be very bad.
Oh, I can tell.
It's like hex core. It's like called a hex core or something.
Yeah,
but yeah.
That's good. I like that fact. Hins, what do you think? What do you think on that topic?
One of the things that I've kind of tried to incorporate into my play is kind of recognizing that a lot of the augments don't actually change how you play.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of them are just like, okay, I have a stat.
Yeah.
Or like I have an extra unit. And like, yes, they don't require you to massively reframe how you think about the game. Like, yes, the math in terms of like what you can fit in, it changes a little, and because there are more horizontal traits, like that can get quite complicated. But once like we settle into like understanding the horizontal traits and the breakpoints and all that, I don't think that the set is going to be as complex. Obviously, it's not going to be as complex as it currently feels. But I would actually love to go through the augments at some point. I won't because I'm lazy. And actually look at them and go like, how many of these, if I got early, would genuinely change my approach to the rest of the game, like significantly, like in terms of like rich get richer. I'm trying to get to 70 as quickly as possible, probably, or hyper roll. I'm just rolling down to 0. Like, how many of those augments are there actually? I feel like most of the ones that are econ.
Yeah, the answer is the answer to that is not particularly many. There are so off the top of my head, I mean in terms of truly game warping augments, almost all of them are prismatic, and most of them make you fundamentally change the way you think about your econ in some way. So you've got richer, obviously with the 70 econ thing. You've got as prismatic, you've got windfall, which gives you an insane amount of gold. So your econ timings are completely like weird. What else is there? I think the next one's at gold rarity, the March of Progress, the one that locks off your leveling but gives you 4 passive XP a turn. And then
they're all chains to gold or experience.
Sorry, what?
All the game-changing ones are tied to gold or experience.
Yes, correct. The ones that fundamentally change the game are tied to gold or experience, correct. There aren't that many game-changing ones that like manipulate the AI of the game itself, if that makes sense. Like of the AI of the units themselves. No, there's not as many of that. Yeah. But there are a few that like Maxi says wise spending. I'm trying to remember which one wise spending is. Oh, is wise spending the one that
when you spend gold you get experience, I'm pretty sure.
I think that's it. It's gold and experience. Yeah,
when you reroll, you get like 1 experience or some shit.
I mean, we don't have to list them all. It's kind of boring. But point is that most of them alter the way you think about econ in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a fundamental skill expressive environment, I think.
Agreed. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think it does have the downside of leading to specific games where you're like, oh, this is a rich get richer game, I'm gonna do this. Oh, it's a hyper game, I'm gonna do this. But I mean, I think so at a micro level, it might not be particularly skill expressive in that like you just do the thing. But I think having a decent game knowledge of knowing when to like how to play specific styles according to augments, sort of more of a macro sort of thinking, right, is its own form of skill expression.
I think it absolutely promotes flexible play. Like there's no doubting that at all. And I do think like it is complex. It's a complex set.
Yeah.
But just in terms of like approaching the set and not getting overwhelmed, I do think it has helped me at least to be like, this is not. I'm just playing the game. Just playing the game and have an extra mercenary. It's like what was I going to say? I do think. Pro tip: I've never bought forward when I've started with metabolic, whatever it is, the one that heals you every round.
Oh, the heal 2? Yeah. I actually think that one's really
heal
good.
Heal 2
at
run faster?
Yeah, I actually think that one's unironically good at like 1/4 because it ends up being like worth like 20-40 HP or something insane. Yeah.
It's 10 health every round.
It's
if you lose. If you are always below 100, because it's 2 health.
Yeah, it's 2 health every turn, right?
And you have 5 combat rounds every round.
Yes.
So by stage 5, it's like 40, 50, it can be 60 health over the course of the game.
It's 10 health. It's 10 health every stage, exactly. It's 10
if
health
you're playing
every stage,
tournament and you get fucking
yeah.
1-4.
Yeah, I actually think that thing at 1-4 is really good. Yeah, because it lets you lose streak with like while barely taking any damage at all. It's quite good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hins, you had a couple of specific topics around set 6 that you wanted to talk about. Is there anything specifically that you'd like to delve into?
Oh, what did I say? I said I want to talk about stage 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Stage 2 has really interested me since set 4. Right. Because I know that people say that Chosens were swingy, and they were, but I think that stage 2 in set 4 and 4.5 was the healthiest it's ever been.
Agreed.
Because you have never had more agency in the early.
Yes, correct.
It's like no one in any elo above GM is going to roll in stage 2. So you lose so much player agency, and if you don't hit, you're fucked. Particularly with all of these augments that are you get 2 target dummies, you get Woodland Heart, you get Fawn. You're just getting 6-0'd, and you're I literally can't do anything because I got the fucking augment that is your socialite square is around, but I don't have a fucking Tarek. Or some shit like that. Stage 2 to me feels the worst. It's the worst feeling part of the game, and it has been all throughout stage 5 and 5.5. I feel there's so little you can do. When all that I can do is position all of my units on the right hand side and hope I kill one unit. I don't know.
Agreed. I mean, Mort has said this himself that one of the overall big sort of structural changes that he wants to eventually make over to the game is that he would like to see more player agency in stage 2, right? So if you really think about stage 2, at least at the way that we currently think about the game, because just because it's established that this is how you play does not necessarily make it correct. It's entirely possible that it's a different way of playing, we as players just haven't discovered yet. But given our current understanding of the game, you almost should never roll on stage 2. You should make as much econ as you can. You make 2-star units. You make units and play strongest board accordingly. If you're trying to lose streak, you try to kill units. A lot of that ends up just sort of playing itself out very easily, especially once you've got a lot of games under your belt. Let's say you're I don't know, a mid GM, or even if you're a Masters player, a lot of the stuff you should know, you'll know from playing. So at least coming from set 5, right? We basically came out of a state where stage 2 essentially played itself out. There's not very many real true decisions to sort of make. Yeah.
Particularly because also on top of all of that, it's the one point in the game where you can play anyone. So you can't even really play around positioning smart until the last round. And even then, it's
But the most you can do is I don't know, move your Kha'Zix to a different corner last minute.
The most you can do is quick scout, be okay, most people are on the right side. I guess I'm on the left.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Chosen gave you the most agency because you could choose to take an early Chosen because you were guaranteed a certain number of Chosens in stage 2. Or you could choose to greed, and that's fine. But that's on you. That's a choice that you have made to not buy a Chosen or to buy a Chosen.
Yep.
I don't think we've ever actually seen. I think that's the only player agency we've actually really. I mean, obviously, you can choose what units in your shop to buy, but it's the best form of player agency we've seen in stage.
I mean, I'll sort of put a sort of capstone on this specific topic, and that set 4 was definitely one of the only sets where Sorry, I was reading that comment. Sorry. I'll definitely say that set 4 is one of the only sets where rolling on stage 2 hasn't felt like a complete grief. For a way to put it. Yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot that people actually did that.
Yeah. Right.
I was just thinking about this. Yeah, because fucking Zed.
Yeah. You actually had a lot of reason to roll during stage 2 and set 4, right? No, you're right. You just threw me off tempo a bit, but that's okay. For example, you could be rolling for Fortune, you could be rolling for Zed is a good example. You could be playing Moonlight, trying to hit a failure. There's a lot of things, right, in set 2 set 4 that would justify rolling at stage 2, especially if you low rolled opening Chosen, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't even thought about it that in depth. I just remembered it having more agency. Didn't remember why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, I'm wary, I'm wary of this because we've all, not all of us, but I remember, in previous sets where, the player damage was lower in stage 2. And what it just meant was that everyone griefed stage 2 and everyone just open forted. But I wonder, but it's tough because like some games, not everyone's going to get woodland or fawn or whatever. But like I do wonder if they need to attack player damage in stage 2. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. When it comes to set 6, I feel like there's a relatively nice balance after the scrap nerfs to the specific scrap champions, where nothing feels significantly unplayable at the moment early game. Like there's actually a couple of multiple directions that you can go with multiple smaller traits that actually kind of balance themselves out by their synergies. Like Caitlyn and Vi is a good example of like a smaller synergy that actually lets you get through the early game pretty easily. Of course, you've got the pretty nice, easy addition of things like Blitzcrank Ezreal, plus a Bodyguard Aura Protector. You've got Bruiser opening, you've got Chemtech, you've got Academy, Protectors. I think there's quite a lot of mixed early game at the moment that makes it. I mean, I certainly haven't seen, unless I was like teaching somebody the new set or like showing them, I haven't seen anyone at like 70 health at 2-6 or like 65 health at 2-6. You know what I mean? Like no one's just getting 5-0'd every round. At the very least, the early game unit power seems like pointedly average, which is a good thing. Like everything seems to be on a similar level of balance at the moment. Whether or not that remains true, obviously remains to be seen, but it's not a bad thing right now.
Yeah, my experience has been a bit different. But again, it's PvE. Like it's so fucking hard to tell.
Everything is subject to change.
All three of us have had unique experiences this whole time, basically.
Yeah. I think what I'm definitely noticing, and this is probably this is more on me as a player. I feel like I have no fucking gold. Like I feel like it's so I don't know. Like I actually do think that's on me. I think it's like I don't have a read on like when I can streak. Like I can't remember the last time I 5-loss or 5-win streaked.
Interesting.
On PvE.
And that is that's a significant like you need time to play the set to figure it out kind of thing. Like the unit power is so hard. I've been complaining about this basically the whole time, but it's only a problem until you actually start playing it. Like until you start playing it on live, is like I don't know if my board beats that board, or if I put this unit in now, am I going to beat this guy with this unit kind of thing. And that's just sort of like muscle memory from playing the game. That thing kind of happens. Like, I mean, 3 or 4 days after the set goes live, you'll start to feel like, yeah, I definitely win that matchup and things like that. But even bringing it back to set 5.5, like when I was still climbing 3 months into the set, I'm like, oh, do I win this round? Like, I can't really tell. Like, I guess so. And like, I'm watching other streamers, and I'll use my good friend Jay Darney as an example of Velkoz's one trick.
A notorious squid
gamer. All he does is play Velkoz over and over again. But I'm watching him play, and he's played like 600 games on the fucking 5.5, and he's like rank 5. And he's like, oh, I definitely lose here, and he wins by 6 units. And you're like, sometimes you just get it wrong.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like everyone is secretly not a very good fight judge. I mean,
and that's okay. That's okay, but that's just something that comes with like repetition, as long as you're making sure.
It's a really interesting thought, though. Like that idea of like, because you hear it about everyone, right? Like everyone's a terrible fight judge. I don't know anyone that's a good fight judge.
No, I've never met a good fight judge in my life.
I know that
I've never met a good fight
people.
judge in my life.
I know that there are some people who are good, but like that's an interesting thought, right? And I think it kind of speaks to to some extent, maybe speaks to the jankiness of movement and targeting that exists in TFT. But I don't know if we're ever really going to address. And I don't know what that would look like, right? Like there are boards where you could like not change the positioning.
Yeah.
Just put them against each other, same units, same items, same augments, and like one win, one loss, one win, one loss.
I mean, if we want to add to this topic, right? I mean, I think that's why puzzle mode would be really, really cool to actually have, because then you could actually like more or less run the simulations in like your spare time, like off the I was gonna say off the Rift, but we're not on Summoner's Rift. I don't know what to call the TFT like game.
What is it? The convergence.
Oh god! Yeah, sure. Then we'll go with that one. While you're off the convergence.
That's the in-game narrative. That's the lore. That's no cap.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway,
like, we'll see the convergence.
So anyway, I think that like that's a big appeal of puzzle mode. In addition to the fact that it's just like a fun brain teasery thing to do on the side, you get to learn these sort of interactions that you might not see very often, and then this kind of stuff can actually come up in game, which is really cool, I think. Yeah.
Our last topic that I've got written down here on a little bit of set 6 is it's 36 hours or so until the set goes live as of time of recording. So maybe when some of you hear this for the first time, you'll already be playing set 6. But one of the things I've written down here is efficient tips to climb. Efficient tips to climb, and let's talk about. The chat's going to confuse me because I'm sure I just saw it. If it's out on the morning of the 4th, it's now the evening.
It's 36 hours, yeah.
36 hours or so from now.
According to Keith, there is a delay, so it won't be out tomorrow.
All right, well that's fine. I mean we'll all survive that way.
It's time to do assignments. Actually, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah. But let's say right now we're not talking to the people who are listening that are veteran players of the game. We're talking to the people that don't play. Maybe they play all the sets. Maybe their best results are Plaid or Diamond 4 or anything like that. Whatever it may be. I guess what I'd like to do here is just get your guys' opinions on an efficient way when a new set comes out to learn and to climb up the ranks. Let's start with you, Sol.
Okay. I mean, it depends on how new you are and how much you play. So for players that play very sort of casually or like are just straight up new to the game, okay, people are not gonna like this. But and I mean, like if you're like Plaid or like Silver Gold or whatever, you want to climb, just look up the most broken degenerate reroll comp, learn how to and just watch a streamer play it like once or twice. And just do that every game. You'll have fun. You'll gain ranks. and I'm actually serious. Like, I actually unironically say this because like when you have like a very linear game plan that you can replicate like every game, right? You get to focus on the other factors of the game, like on the fundamentals, like econing, playing strongest board, etc., etc. Like when you sort of simplify the game down to just like 7-8 units, it's a lot harder to get overwhelmed, and it's a lot less. It's like a lot less dizzy, I would say. But I will say that eventually, you do want to eventually transition to a point where you sort of branch out into like other compositions. But for players that are sort of new or take the game a lot more casually, I tend to recommend just picking out a linear strategy, usually a reroll comp, and just playing that along.
Yeah. Hins, what do you think?
Look, I'm coming off the back of 10 fifths, so don't fucking ask me. No. But the thing that excites me is that like I look at all of those fifths and I'm like, I fucking misplayed. So like I don't feel that bad about the set. I know that I'm like not playing well. I reckon if we're talking like Plat, Diamond, whatever, I think that the two comps to play are just gonna be like Yodels and Scrap. Honestly. Because they're very easy to pick up very early on. They're very straightforward in terms of how you play them.
I think Yodels is a really good one. Yeah.
I think Yodels will be particularly good because, like any reroll comp or any comp that relies on hitting 3 stars, when everyone else is playing shit boards, you live forever. So you're just like guaranteed to hit, right? So you just fucking go 6. You find your yodels. Maybe you go 7 and get Jana for like Scrap, Scholar, and Janta.
I mean, sorry, you finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was my fucking. I have other thoughts, but that's like my baseline.
Okay. I just want to briefly add that I mean, like we did touch on this at the start that like this isn't really aimed at people like high elo and whatnot, but I guess this is more applicable to the people sort of hard stuck around like masters, like the lower hundreds, like 100 to like 300, 400 LP, and trying to figure out what they can do to sort of make the extra jump. I will say that once you sort of hit masters, once you hit like 100, 200 LP, you've got your sort of feet in the water, right? The next step to improve is to sort of focus more on improving holistically as a player instead of just trying to like brainlessly replicate the exact same strategy like over and over again. If that makes any sense. Once you get to that point, it's the way you climb is very much trying to like experimenting, trying to learn new things, trying out like different like different decisions that you like you wouldn't normally make, and sort of learning, getting better from that. But up until that point, yeah, it's just one trick. just one trick.
Yeah. I think one trick until you stop climbing, and I think at that stage, and this is what excites me about the set is that like I'm struggling with it. I got a lot of fifths, but I know that I'm playing wrong. Like in those, but my approach literally has been like strongest board, top 4. Like I don't care about winning. I've never really been like a first or second player. I'm very much so a third or fourth player. And I do think that particularly at the start of the set, if your goal is to like every round, look at the units in your shop, look at your augments, look at the units on your bench, look at the units on your board, what combination of them is the most powerful board right now? And then just play that for a while. Just play that for like a couple of games. It'll fucking suck. You'll lose a bunch of LP, but it will actually help you so much in terms of like spring. Because when it clicks, you'll fucking skyrocket, right? Yeah, and then after that, you can worry about like figuring out like mid game and late game transitions, right? Like in lower elos, you don't even need to transition. You just keep playing strongest board, and everyone else dies out. Yeah, and then you become me, and you're like, oh, I play pretty decent early game, pretty decent mid game, and then I fucking fall off a cliff because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing late game. Yeah. Genuinely, that's my advice, and I think that's particularly potent for this set. I think that strongest board, people say it all the fucking time, but I do think that practicing it now and getting accustomed to it at the start of set 6, if you are trying to break through masters, like low masters, etc., it will really be to your benefit, and you'll enjoy the game more. It's so much more fun when you feel like you're playing flex. You feel like, oh, I'm so fucking good at this game. Anyway, that's me.
Yeah, I'd like to expand very quickly on the idea of being a strongest board gamer, and just say that when it comes to playing your strongest board, for somebody that's new or a newer player or a slightly more casual style player, don't be afraid to go away from the traits and the synergies, and don't get too caught up in those shiny little orbs on the left side of your screen. To like just play units together and see if they work. If they don't work, for next time.
Yeah, if they don't work, not to do it.
I've got this 2 cost and this 2-star unit and this 2-star unit. Man, I'm losing every fight. I don't know what it is. I can take one out and swap it. You'll mess it up. If you're gonna be flexible, and if you're gonna play what pro players call strongest board, don't be afraid to mess up, because you will get better for it. This unit and this unit don't work together because, oh man, my Singed flipped this, and then the Caitlyn altered it when I wanted it to alt something else, and I actually altered the Singed flip target. Oh, maybe I'll move the Caitlyn next time. Or maybe I don't play the Singed. Maybe I play this Protector that I have on my bench. Or maybe I buy this unit in my shop that gives me whatever, Bruiser. Just don't be afraid to mess up when you're learning how to play flexibly. Because you will. As Hinsey said, you are going to mess up and you are going to lose LP. But when you get it, man, you feel so fucking good. It's like it shoots through here and it goes up and it goes into your brain and your head gets a little bit rounder and a bit bigger and you're like, holy shit. I'm unstoppable at this teamfight tactics game, man. I'm so good. Don't be afraid to mess up.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
A quick addendum.
Of course.
Sure.
It will also like make it easier for you to accept losing, and it will help you identify like what you're doing wrong. Like if you kind of come to terms with the fact that you're just going to lose games when you're trying new shit, it means that when you can actually look back on games and be like, okay, why did I lose that?
Mm-hmm.
And it changes. It can help change your mental from like I didn't hit to being like, oh, I tried something new. I tried this. This didn't work in this situation. That is like an actual learning that you can take away from that moment instead of being like, I'm trying to force this comp because I've seen someone play it. You don't actually learn many applicable skills, really, because once that comp is not meta anymore or whatever, or like when you don't have the augment set up for it, it's like, I don't know. I'm going to shut up now. I could talk about this for hours.
No,
also, watch small streamers because they'll actually talk to you and they can explain their thought process. Like, no cap, I know that like it's a meme because we're all like small streamers. But genuinely watch small streamers because you can actually engage in conversation with them and like type them a question and they can be like, yeah, they'll be like, this is why I did this.
Yeah.
Specifically, this one thing in this one round.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great. I think that's been a really good discussion, guys. I'm going to toss it over now to Sol, and we're going to get some viewer questions in because I think we've got some good ones today.
All right, let's go. Okay, viewer question segment time. Okay, all right. Anyone can answer this. Anyone can jump up and answer this. So the first one is, what was... I feel we answered this a little bit. Okay, we did one actually. But anyway, what was your favorite comp to play in set 5.5? I feel like I already have the answers, but lightning round.
Oh, I'm going to type it in chat.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah, there it is. Pledge, baby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's a podcast. Pledge.
And we already know your love of Yasuo. And yeah, moving on. Okay. Who was your favorite and least favorite units in 7.5? We did discuss this one really quickly as well. I absolutely hated Thresh, and I loved Aphelios and Yasuo.
Action.
Cool. All right. Cool question. Actual question. Cool. Was set 5.5 too balanced? Also known as, were there issues with the game becoming too stale because of the core mechanic? Thoughts?
It's a great question. I really love this question. The game felt very found out pretty early on, I think. I'll expand on that in a little bit. I want to talk to Hinsey about this. I think you were quite excited by this question. Talk to me a little bit about the idea of being too balanced.
I think it's an interesting, like the phrasing is interesting because it's like, was it too balanced or did just not enough change between set 5 and 5.5? Like, I do think both are true. I think it's a combination of like, we knew the most powerful boards. It's a combination of a bunch of things that we've talked about. We knew the most powerful boards. We knew what items could work, not necessarily BIS, but like what potential items could work. And Armories and Radiant items, the fact that you could guarantee like 6 components if you were lose streaking the entire game, plus you get the spike from Radiant Blessing and Radiant item, meant that it was a lot easier to force comps. So the comps that we saw were relatively stale because that was the optimal way to play, right? Like, the comps themselves were fairly rigid. Like, I think at the end of the day, there were like maybe 14 comps that you saw in across your lobbies in Challenger. I never saw fucking carry Ziggs. Really, I saw it maybe one every like 50 games. You know what I mean? Like, by the end of the set, I was like, I've seen this carry, I've seen this carry, I've seen this carry, I've seen this. Every single comp that I saw for the last 2 or 3 weeks of playing, I had seen before at some point during the set. And I don't know if you can fix that. But I think it was a combination of boring and like, also all those comps could win. Yeah. I think it was a combination of like boring and like relatively easy to game the system to get what you needed for the comp. And then you just needed to hit the units. Like, it didn't feel, to me, particularly skill expressive by the end, except in terms of like the skill expression being knowing all the available comps.
Yeah.
And what they need.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Cotler?
Yeah, I think by the time you get to a 0.5 set, right, you've played most of the units for a long time if you're a consistent player. So you kind of just know, like, you will just know the difference between a good start and a bad start, a good carry and a bad carry, a good positioning and a bad positioning. You'll just understand when you go into a mid set. And so there's infinitely less to learn just from like a gameplay, a replayability standpoint. Maybe it's better that way, maybe it's worse that way. I can't really be
I don't know
the one to say it, but sorry, Hins, go on. Give me your thoughts.
I don't know anyone who would say it's better. Like, I don't know anyone who would say, like, I want small changes for the mid set. Like, feel free to like put your hand up and challenge me on that. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who is like, yeah, I thought that the number of changes they made in set 5.5 was more than enough. But yeah. I could be wrong. That's absolutely my bad.
I mean, the thing is that like I did bring this up a little bit already, but the thing is that like in reality, they actually brought in quite a few changes in set 5.5. It's just that I think that gameplay is just so tied to the carries, and that there is a lot of, I don't know if this is the right way to use this word, but there's a lot of sort of almost recency bias in that if you keep seeing the same carries over and over again, the other systems of the game could be completely changed, but because you are getting Vel'Koz beamed over and over again, it more or less feels like the same thing, right? Because if we really think about the sort of mechanics that were changed, you have an entire mechanic in Shadow Items being removed. You have the introduction of the Radiant Armory. You have the introduction of the Radiant Blessing, the Stimmy, which was completely new concept. And yet, 5.5 still felt like a very small, like, set update. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that basically none of the forecasts were changed. We were playing the exact same carries as we were previous set, you know? Still playing Draven, still playing Felios, still playing Vel'Koz, you know, a lot of the same, still playing Karma, a lot of the same faces. So, yeah.
Yeah. And look, the whole point of the mid sets, you know, the whole reason that they wanted to put them in the first place was to make holistic changes while keeping the theme so they could work on bigger projects for the bigger sets. That's great. Do that. But I think what they learned between set 4 and 4.5 was that they needed to be much quicker on the rigorous changes every fortnight. They needed to be like, this is way too good.
Yes.
Nerf. You know, like, really, really, if something is just broken, they've done a much better job on, like, identifying and nerfing it relatively quickly. I would just say, like, maybe they need to do it. Maybe they need to, like, focus on buffing more things per fortnight or per month or whatever it may be. I think that would lead to certainly a less static feeling. Like, all of a sudden, these like 7 different units all at once are getting significant buffs. I think they shouldn't be afraid to do that because, I mean, I guess that from a game design perspective, if they have to revert things, they very clearly feel like it's a failure. And Mort said as much that they feel like they don't want to revert huge changes immediately because they need to see it play out over a significant period of time. But the more experimental they are in a 0.5 set, I think the better it will be for like player retention for the boring. I say boring, it's not boring. The slower period of interest in the game.
I will say that if we're just talking about the context of 5.5 getting a bit stale, I think that does, at the end of the day, have a lot to do with the fact that the traits in Set 5 are just not particularly exciting. They're not very flashy in any way. Most of them are just number buffs. Like, most of them just give you more stats. They just make your team, like, do more damage. There's nothing particularly... They even removed Coven, one of the traits that actually had, like, sort of positioning nuance to it, right? And that, could enable a bunch of, sort of unconventional units to be played as carries. I'm thinking about, like, Coven, Ivan, and other similar like silly things, right? Coven, Aphelios. There's a lot of sort of silly things you can do with Coven. So firstly, the set already does not have that much room for creativity, and then they take away one of the traits that you could be very creative with. Essentially, you end up essentially left with a set that has a lot of, yes, the balance is quite good, but you're just smacking each other around with a bunch of numbers. There's nothing flashy. There's no oh wow moments happening. It's just Vel'Koz beaming your entire board every time. Yeah.
Removing Coven was so weird to me. I was like, this is like one of the traits that you have, and it never felt problematic.
No.
After LeBlanc, it never felt problematic.
LeBlanc was the problem. It's not Coven that's the issue, right? It's the LeBlanc chain with the dark blue bluff that was the issue. But anyway.
Morgana was one of the most enjoyable and flexible frontliners in the entire Set 5.
Yeah.
She had good traits. She was interesting. She had a good ability. It wasn't overpowered. It wasn't like, if you 3-starred it, it wasn't like game-breakingly overpowered. Like, and then whatever the other one was. Lysandra, right?
I think also, like, not to excuse it, but at the end of the day, they've said it multiple times. Like, they were working on Set 6. They made a choice. They made a
conscious decision.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with like Set 5 being like 5 and 5.5 being the way they were. Like, especially after having played so much Set 6. Like, it's very clear that that's where they allocated all their resources, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the most heartening things to come out of Set 5 and 5.5 is like to read like the their recollections on it, and to see Mort being like, here's what didn't work, and to like, as a player, I don't know if anyone read that post when he made it, but as a player reading that and going like, yes, I agree with all of this. Is personal.
Yeah, it was very,
my experience. Yeah, to hear the actual lead dev be like, I share these concerns was cool.
They're good at the game. The TFT designers are good at the game.
Yeah, Mort and Kent especially. Kent is actually.
And
Kent,
there's
right?
like the
Kent is actually good.
The League of Legends community is like quite up in arms about it, because I don't know. I think I saw this big post a while ago after Mort did the Set 5.5 retrospective and how he felt, and he was talking about like what it's like to play at a relatively high level and understand it. I think that it's a very unique benefit. It is a very unique benefit, because I'm pretty sure that the main outcry from the another Riot Games game, League of Legends, was that their main designer is like Silver 3 or something.
Yeah, as like a casual semi-serious, like, in that, like, I do actually play League as well with my friends in like a team-based setting. It's a pretty big meme as to like the state of League of Legends game design, in that their designers don't even really play the game. The designers are.
It's a very unique
not very
TFT.
The designers are not very transparent and don't really even play the game. So yeah,
and
bad combo.
More puts himself out there, man. That is fucking hard. I wouldn't do it. If I was the lead designer of TFT, no fucking way I would like leave my Twitter DMs open and like leave my Discord DMs open for fucking people to complain every single day that I tweet, or like I post a picture about my fucking wife and I've got hundreds of comments about like how shit my life, like the game design and my job is. Like, it's not an enviable position, and I think that like him also having time to be good at the game and like retroactively change things about the game and like understand the competitive player point of view.
Yeah.
Big up. That makes me want to keep playing. That makes me want to come back to the game over and over again. Because they care about it. So so should I. So I should care about it because they've told me that they do.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said this on stream. I mean, this is just turning into a more appreciation thread at this point. But I haven't said this on stream. But part of the reason I sort of stuck with TFT, despite like specific like low points with the game, is actually because of like Mort and his like and the fellow game designers he gets on like to do retrospectives as well. Like seeing that sort of level of sort of transparency and almost dedication and honesty as well is something I think very very rare. You just don't see this very often at all in just the gaming sphere, like especially in competitive gaming, right? Like a lot of game designers just sort of, I mean, this is not a slight at all, but just a lot of game design, and a good reason, right? A lot of game designers just sort of hide behind, their screens and they don't really say anything. They're just like, okay, guys, here are the balance changes. All right, you guys gonna play, right?
Fucking see you.
Yeah, pretty much, right? All right, peace. See you guys later. So yeah. All right, cool. So all right, we touched on that was a pretty good question. I feel like there's pretty good answers. I will do a quick addendum to some of these questions because we did answer them before, but I feel like there's interest. You just change the set number and it's a decent question. So far from like PB experience, guys, what has been your sort of leading sort of front runners? What have your sort of favorite comps have sort of been so far in set 6?
Comps that I think are good, or comps that I
like actually it's probably better to just say what comps have you enjoyed playing, because good is always gonna it's gonna change very very
I literally had 3 or 4 days where if I didn't get an econ trait at 1-4, I just quit because I wanted to play Yordles. Like I was just I was like, I'm not committing to 40 minutes of this game unless I'm getting Yordles. Like,
did you play like the actual like the way it was intended, or did you play like the socks variant where you just
no, I want Vega. I don't give a fuck.
You play the way it was intended.
I am a full fun player. I've never gone higher than 3rd. Like never.
All right, so Yordles for Hinzi. How about you, Hutler?
I've played 8 Yordle games and I've yet to get 1 Vega. Just by the way, I've died before I got Vega every time.
Yeah.
So yeah. Even if I wasn't even if I wasn't playing the Vega version, like the Ziggs 3 on bench version, like fuck that, man. I'm not playing that shit on live. No way. No way. You just know, like sometimes if you play comp, you just know, like I'm not playing that shit. That's not for me.
The Ziggs 3 on bench.
Yordles is going to be the one where I'm like, no, don't care.
If I got a bust, okay. I've actually played the Ziggs 3 on bench, and I actually think it's the funniest thing ever. I think just having a Ziggs 3 on the bench is just the funniest.
But it's like not for me. I just fucking die. Like I guess I just don't get it. Like I'm just like whatever. Fuck you. I don't care.
I mean, the way I can explain that version really, really straightforward is just it's almost, you can think of it almost exactly as like the reroll Tristana comp from last set, except this one makes econ once it hits. This one spits out 3 gold a turn once it hits.
Yeah. I mean, I like it, but it's just not for me. Sometimes you just know something's not going to be for you, and that's that. Yeah. Like, I think for me, like my favorite comp that I've played, and I've played most of my games have been in, is Jin. Like I'm pretty much playing 4 Clockwork Jin, like every other game. It's like very comfortable, very easy to play, very enjoyable. It's got a good early game, a good mid game. Its late game is really good. I will say that it's sort of a different problem, but Janna, Seraphine, and Oriana as a trio is an issue for me.
Don't forget Tarek. The honorary ego.
The honorary Tarek. 4th one. That 3 combination, I think, has the potential to be the biggest problem for me, because they are an excessively necessary core.
Lot of shielding and a lot of healing.
Yeah, it's also an incredibly necessary core, and it feels so bad when you don't hit it. Like you just
very ubiquitous.
You need it for a lot of comps. You need it for a lot of playstyles. You need it for a lot of end games. There's not enough for everybody. It is very difficult to see how it won't be changed in some way. I'm not. I guess what I'm more complaining about here is the accessibility of a powerful trio like that being gated behind them being 4 costs, so there not being a significant amount of them, is actually a pretty good thing. But it's really, really hard to play at the moment, knowing that fact.
I think that
if somebody gets the 4-1 and hits Janna 2 and Oriana 2, it's I mean, you're pretty much stuck with Janna 1 and Oriana. Like I've got to like 6-1 or 6-4 even, or whatever it may be. Like with an Oriana 1 and a Janna 1, you know, and then the rest of your board done, just because they're all gone.
Yep.
So I find that very interesting that the support units are really hard to find.
I think that's just like a sort of I was gonna say I think it's just a sort of like a counterpoint, right? I think that there's always going to be like a sort of fine line between really ubiquitous, splashy like support units that can go in any sort of horizontal comp, and just good vertical units, if that makes sense. Like there's a really interesting sort of tug and push, right? Like you don't want units to be as splashable as like Revenants are, but at the same time, you know, you also don't want your vertical capstones to be like too good either. Like so, there's like interesting like line. I don't know if I'm saying this too well, but yeah,
I get what you mean.
I understand.
What do you think?
I think that like my immediate comparison, obviously a bunch of forecasts that synergize really well together is Revenants, and I think that it's a lot. My first impression is that it's going to be a lot easier to balance Joy than it was to balance the other one. The name I don't like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Purely by nature of the fact that the units like aren't, you know, it's not a Volibear. It's not an Ivan. It's not a Volibear. They don't like live forever. They aren't also a frontline. I think that you can hit the numbers, right? Like
ultimately, it does come to numbers, right? Because fundamentally, fundamentally, they are healing and shielding, right? I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
No. You're okay. I've been doing it all night.
But yeah, they're fundamentally just healing and shielding units, right? They're very stat checky. Like it's very stat based, right? So there's a very clear levers for you to hit. Yeah.
Yes, as opposed to like Volley and Ivan, where it's like they either ult or they don't ult, and if they aren't ulting, like they, you know what I mean? They have to be able to ult, otherwise no one plays them. So there was kind of this really weird thing where it was like, it didn't even matter if it was Volibear 1 or Ivan 1.
Yep.
You just needed them to ult for the CC. Whereas now it's like the numbers can actually mean something, particularly because they give MR, they give shielding, and they give health. So like they're giving a defensive trait, and then they're giving you effective health to use that defensive buff with. Like I actually want to do the math at some point. I feel like numbers wise, they're actually fairly close, if not like more effective Mystics than Mystics were. Even though the magic resist,
this is like the best iteration of Mystic we've ever seen. Oh, that's like hot. It's not a hot take, but hot take. This is the most insanely powerful version of Mystic we've ever seen. Like combining the MR with the shielding. Yeah, you go. Sorry. Yeah.
But I actually think it's also like from a design perspective the best iteration of Mystics we've had because they have four levers.
Yes, there are multiple levers to hit, right? It's not just a flat value. Yeah.
Yeah. And Seraphine has like 7 levers. She's attack speed, attack slow, healing, damage.
Right. Seraphine doesn't attack slow anymore. Seraphine does not.
They got rid of that immediately.
Seraphine does not debuff. Thank God that was removed.
Well, there you go.
Seraphine does not debuff anymore. Jesus
At least
Christ.
they're able to get rid of that, as opposed to Mystics, where it's like, well, we can cut off some MR. You know what I mean? Yeah. I have faith. I have faith that the set has a lot more levers, so they have a lot more options in terms of how they balance things without completely killing them. Because that was the problem with Volibear and Ivan, was like they either ulted or they didn't, and they had to be able to ult, or no one would ever play them. So their design was problematic. I don't think that the design of Janna, Yuumi, and Oriana is problematic. I think that perhaps they're just too strong.
I think if we are to say there is any sort of concern so far, it's just of how ubiquitous they are, right? They slot too cleanly into every single fast 8 board. I was noticing this when I was drafting a sort of bunch of notes for fast 8 comps, and I'm just like, every single comp caps out with Janna, Ori, Yuumi, Seraphine sometimes, and maybe sometimes Tarek. And yeah. But no, I think it'll be fine in reality.
That's been in every set, though, hasn't it?
That's been in every set. There's always this is what I was alluding to earlier, in that there's a fine line between flexible forecasts, flexible support forecasts, like utility forecasts, that's loaded to everything, right? There's some iteration of this in basically every set, but I think in this set it just feels, at least so far, there's some early concerns because the units themselves synergize really well with each other, or the shielding or the healing, right? Yeah.
Mana gain, because you get Scholar. As well. Yeah. Like that's a big one. That's a big one.
The fact that
I like that I like that they've kind of grouped a lot of those traits together in a lot of ways as well. I just think like if you're going to group all those traits together, there has to be a not a negative, but there has to be a really slight downside to playing them, in that the units themselves are not like supremely overpowered.
Yeah, but you can hit the numbers. I mean, my instant, like, this is how I would do it, is I would up the MR and downgrade everything else. To, like, be like, these are, like, these predominantly units are going to be strong if you need MR. Like, that's their identity. Or maybe their identity is that they heal. I don't know. They have to figure it out. But like,
I would,
MR means that it's less ubiquitous, if that's the primary focus.
I would like it so that I would like the current sort of what's it called? The current numbers on the sort of healing and shielding that's inherent within the trait itself to be turned down. I think the units themselves should be good. Like, you should be excited to hit a Janna, you should be excited to hit an Ori. I think that what we're arriving on, at least it feels like the group consensus now is that, like, from us talking, is that the issue is that currently they synergize too well with each other. Like, that's the real problem. That's the root of the problem, right? Like, it's playing all these enchanters together, like the fact that the units are good and the trade is also good. So you just end up mashing all these things together to begin with. Whereas I think it sounds like we'd like them to be good, but more in that, like, the units themselves, like, if you play the units by themselves, they're good. If you play them together, they're still good, but like, it's not so much better, if that makes sense. That you always end up just playing them together.
Yeah, good question.
All right. I like how we just tangented into a pretty good question, because that wasn't even planned to like talk about the whole Janna Ori Yumi thingy, but yeah, it was good. All right. Just trying to see if there's any other questions that like are like probably good to ask.
I covered most of it, I think.
I think we covered. I mean, I'm looking through the list. We've covered most of it. I noticed Seni just joined the chat. Seni, if you got a real quick, I think we are really getting close to our runtime. If you have anything you want to ask, Seni, go ahead and just drop in the chat. But other than that, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Excited for Sex 6? It's gonna be good.
Yeah, 36 hours from now. Fantastic news. Really, really looking forward to it.
I'm just looking forward to playing on OCE ping.
Really?
Agree.
I've gotten so used to NA ping. I don't know about you guys.
I hate it.
I don't even notice it anymore.
It. Because like I love to quick. I love to like. I'm bad at it, but I love to like.
You're fair enough.
Move everything around. Look, guys, I think that's pretty much going to do it then. I don't think we've got any more questions coming in. So, thank you to our guest, Hinsey, this evening for joining us.
Yeah,
it's been a really
thank you
great
so much,
episode.
Hinsey.
And goodbye, and don't come back, set 5.5. I feel like that might very well be the sentiment that we've got.
It wasn't all bad. No, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. It was an okay set.
That's a bit of a.
It was an okay set.
That's a bit of a cope from us, I think.
Okay, 5.5 wasn't all bad. 5 was.
Hinsey, I want to give you this last little opportunity to shout yourself out, tell people where they can find you, and then we'll get out of here.
Great. Twitch TV Hinsey. Wait, Twitch. You know, type my name. It's a 1 instead of an I.
If you know, you know.
I'll probably stream a bit this week. I don't fucking know.
Great. And
all right.
So my co-hosts, my friend, please let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. My Twitch is Sol_TFT. I will definitely be streaming a bunch once Set 6 comes out, so be sure to check that out. I have a Twitter as well, at Sol. I think it's the exact same. I think it's at Sol_TFT. Feel free to follow that if you want to know when I go to live. And yeah.
Great. And for me, guys, your host, Cutler, you can find me at twitch.tv/CutlerTFT. Same on Twitter. You can find our podcast, The Roll Down, on Twitter at RollDownPod. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever good podcasts are made. The podcast app that gives you ads, then that track your phone, whatever. It'll be on there. Search The Roll Down, a Teamfight Tactics podcast. Really appreciate you coming on, Hinsey. Thank you so much. We'll let you get out of here.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, guys. This is beautiful.
Bye. Bye.